welcome back to my channel. I am Britt, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you probably should, because I talk about geeky things, and today we're going to be ranking Power Rangers again, but this time instead of how I like them, I'm ranking them in how I feel about their acting, which is going to be pretty similar to how I like them in that list, because of the fact that a big reason why I don't like some seasons is because of their acting. But I thought this would be a fun way to do a ranking video for Power Rangers, because it is going to be slightly different, and there are certain seasons that I love, but maybe not so much the acting. So let's just jump right into it. Again, just like before, I will not be separating out Mighty Morphin, nor will I be separating out the seasons from the super seasons. Even though Mighty Morphin does come with a whole slew of different actors, the acting caliber was about the same. I'll just encompass all 3 seasons into one season for Mighty Morphin. So let's just jump right into it. So starting at number 20, because that's where we're at if we're not separating out seasons from super seasons and the Mighty Morphin season. Number 20 on my list is Samurai. Is anybody surprised? No, because Samurai is terrible. So the acting in Samurai is atrocious, and it's not even just the acting, it is also the writing, but that goes in, that's like part of the acting, because if you don't have a well-written script, it's really hard to act well, but good actors, like people who are well-versed in acting, are able to pull that off. I can pull that off in drama. I cannot pull that off in comedy, because I can't do comedy to save my life. But either way, Samurai just has the worst acting in any Power Rangers season I've ever seen to this day. Number 19 on my list is Ninja Steel. So Ninja Steel has some decent aspects. Kelson Henderson, always a gem. Love him. He is the best. But basically everybody else is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. You can tell with Neo Saban specifically that all the actors are usually super green, or not really actors, they're models turned actors, or whatever it may be. It's just bad. It's just bad. It's just not good. I feel like the acting was super forced. I feel like the actors had literally no chemistry. I do wonder if any of them were actually friends on the set, because they didn't seem to be. A lot of times when you watch shows with great chemistry, it's because you can tell that those actors were just really good friends outside of the show. You know, you look at shows like Psych or Community, where people actually had deep, meaningful relationships with each other, and that carried through into the characters and showed that chemistry really, really well. But then you have shows like I Love Lucy, for example, where the actors all hated each other essentially, and yet they still acted well together and had good chemistry because they had good actors. So when you have bad actors who may or may not have good relationships outside of filming, you're not going to have a good situation. Now, I don't know their relationships, obviously, but my guess would be none of them are friends in real life. Number 18 on my list is Megaforce. So Megaforce had its good actors. I think Sierra Hannah or Gia and Azam Rizik or Jake, I think I pronounced his name correctly. I apologize if I did not. I think they were the strongest actors out of everybody. I think they're the actors that will actually have a career ahead of them. The other actors, not so much. Though I did like seeing the girl who played Emma. Can't think of her name off the top of my head right now. I liked seeing her in a Super Bowl commercial a couple of years ago. That was pretty fun. She was in a McDonald's commercial. She was eating a Big Mac. It was kind of fun. Anyway, but yeah, so the actors, not great. Specifically, Troy, Andrew Gray. He is a perfect example as to why I hate when models are like, I want to be an actor now. No, you don't. Please don't. Please stop taking away jobs from real actors, thanks. Number 17 on my list is Wild Force. This one's so hard because, like, I have a very soft place in my heart for this particular season. It does have my favorite Yellow Ranger in it, but the acting just is so, again, just green. It was like, I know it was partially produced by Disney, so forgive me for lumping it in with the Saban seasons. It's in between both Saban and Disney because Saban started it, Disney ended it, blah. It's not a Disney season. It's also not really a Saban season either, but Saban did do the casting, and that tends to be a thing that Saban does a lot, is cast new actors, because he refused to unionize the show, and not only did he refuse to unionize the show, but he also always hired United States actors. So there's that. You know, when we were in the trenches of New Zealand and actually hiring New Zealand, Australian, or Canadian actors, like we did with Disney, the acting seemed to just be better. Why? Because we could hire union actors. Because it wasn't a Canadian show, and it wasn't a New Zealand show, and it wasn't an Australian show. It was a United States show. So the acting in Wild Force just wasn't good because it was just too many new people who went nowhere. May I remind you. Number 16 on my list is Lightspeed Rescue. I always get worried whenever I am gonna hate on Lightspeed Rescue because I know it has a huge following, and you know what? Love it. I know you are nostalgic for it. The love for it is pure nostalgia, and I'm fine with it. That's why I love Mighty Morphin as much as I do. However, I do have a massive issue in general with the acting because the acting is just not good. Specifically, a lot of the characterization was really poor, and that is part of acting. Characterization is acting. You choosing how to play the character is as much of your acting job as it is to act and react properly. But that is my problem, is like, people know how to act. Like, you can do whatever you want on screen, not well necessarily, and we're gonna get to Vipera, but what I had an issue with was people reacting, because there is a level of reacting that needs to be done and a level of reacting that doesn't need to be done. There were some people in Lightspeed Rescue that reacted way over the top, and others that didn't react well at all. Again, Saban just was well known for hiring very green, very new actors that go literally nowhere with their careers. But you have the girl who played Kelsey who reacted like every single time. And then you got the guy who played Joel who's like, oh, it's my line now, okay. I mean, it's just not good. And now Vipera. Okay, so there is a saying in acting that is, forget your lines so that when you're saying them, it's authentic. So basically you remember your lines as you're saying them. You don't memorize your lines. You just, it's complicated, and it does work. It is a true acting style, and it does work when you know how to do it properly, but you have to know how to do it properly. So essentially you memorize, like, how now brown cows. You memorize that word, you remember that phrase, that sentence, whatever it is. How now brown cow. I don't know why I always go to that, but I do. I don't know. Then the concept is, through the scene itself, you're not thinking, okay, I have to say that one line. So you're sitting there, okay, I gotta say the one line, gotta say that 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 one line. And I think that's probably the guy who plays Joel's problem, is he was going, okay, my line's coming up, my line's coming up, my line's coming up, my line's coming up, my line's coming up. Oh, my line's here. Okay, I can finally start doing a thing. No, your character doesn't stop existing just because you're not saying your line. However, she took it to a whole new level because they had to, like, let her read the script. I don't know. But, like, oh my goodness, I cannot handle her acting. She was the reason I had to stop watching it. Genuinely. Like, it was like Saban goes, she looks like the girl in the Sentai. Let's just use her. Instead of, like, actually knowing whether or not the woman could act, like, at all. It was so, like, okay, I have never seen a worse actor. Show me a worse actress than the girl who played Vipera. You can't do it. Number 15 on my list, oddly enough, is the 15th season, Operation Overdrive. So you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of Operation Overdrive. It's fine. It's not bad. It's not good. A lot of the acting was just kind of mediocre at best. Dax, by far the worst actor in the entire season. He was so bad. I think the best actor was the guy who played Will and the guy who played Mac. I think they both did a very good job playing their characters, and they're the reasons why it's a little higher up on the list. And as far down the list, because I was basing it off of Dax, it'd probably be a little bit lower. But a lot of the acting just was mediocre at best. Like, there's really nothing else that can be said. There was no actor in it where I was like, never step in front of a camera ever again. There was no actor on there like that. There are in literally every other one before this, though. Number 14 on my list is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now again, this is really hard because it's 3 seasons with a vast, wide cast. I mean, you start with 5, you go to 6. I mean, and we're just talking about Power Rangers here. And then you're trading out Rangers throughout the course of Mighty Morphin. I mean, by the end of Mighty Morphin, we have 1 Ranger that's been there from episode 1. And even Zordon switched out at one point. David Fielding did not play the voice of Zordon the whole time. He didn't. Went to Bob Manahan at one point. So even Zordon's actor switched out. So there is a wide range of actors that were in Mighty Morphin. However, that being said, the acting caliber was about the same. As I said a little bit earlier in this video, the caliber was about the same because, again, they were hiring very new actors. There was a very wide stipulation that they had to be either martial artists, gymnasts, or dancers, so that it was a lot easier to teach them the fighting scenes. So the caliber was very similar. It was more focused on the actual athleticism versus on the actual acting. While some of them were genuine actors like Amy Jo Johnson or Johnny Young Bosch, which I would say Johnny Young Bosch, probably the best actor in that season or in Mighty Morphin, along with Amy Jo Johnson, were actual genuine actors. Whereas you look at Jason David Frank or Austin St. John, who were not actors, they were martial artists who just auditioned for a show. And that's very prevalent with the fact that the ones that were actors are still in the acting or directing realm, and the ones who were not are now in the martial arts realms, like Steve Cardenas. I mean, you have to look at it from that perspective. They weren't actually actors. So even though it was a wide cast, it definitely is still one of those situations where you can lump it all together because the acting caliber was about the same. They weren't actors, they were athletes. So basically all of the Zordon era is going to be one right after one another because of the fact that it was essentially still the same cast, but just switching out randomly throughout the course of the Zordon era. So number 13 is Zeo. And the reason it was Zeo over Turbo is because Turbo has a second cast where they switched everybody out at one point, and I like that cast better, which we'll talk about Turbo in a minute, obviously. But Zeo, I think, fits a little bit higher than Mighty Morphin because even though it was still Jason David Frank and Catherine Sutherland and Johnny Young Bosch and Steve Cardenas, and then with the addition of Nakia Burrese into that season, even though it was still basically the same cast as the end of Mighty Morphin, minus Karen Ashley, it was still better because I feel like they knew their characters better and they had learned acting. I mean, even Steve Cardenas, who has said many a time he wasn't an actor and learned from Paul Schreier how to be an actor, learned from Jason Narvey how to be an actor, and learned a lot. Even he will say that Zeo, he felt the best and most confident in his acting skills at that point because he wasn't an actor, still isn't an actor to this day. And that is true, but I agree with that. Looking at it from a director's point of view and looking at it from an actor's point of view, I would say he was definitely more confident. He was definitely doing his lines better. He was definitely reacting better. He definitely played a lot more comfortably, I think. So I definitely think that is true. So that's why Zeo is a little bit higher than Mighty Morphin, because I feel like the actors were really starting to understand their characters and understand what acting really was, even if they weren't necessarily actors before. Number 12 on my list is Turbo, because again, like I said, we have the exact same cast essentially from Zeo, except for minus Steve Cardenas, who went off to actually just open up a karate school, or a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, I think it was. Anyway, I don't remember. I have to double check what he actually teaches. But we added Blake Foster in, which, mind you, Blake Foster, not a bad actor. I don't like the existence of Justin, but I don't mind Blake Foster. He's a fine actor. But it's really that second cast that gets me, because I really like the second cast a lot better. I feel like the second cast was really their first time diving into actual actors versus diving into people who were martial artists, gymnasts, or dancers like they did in seasons previous. This was the first time they hired actors. And while some of them, like the girl who played Cassie, definitely could have stood up for more acting classes before she joined this cast, I just limited to the fact that she was green, but she definitely got better through the course of the rest of Turbo and obviously all of In Space, which leads us to number 11, which is In Space. Again, it's basically the same exact cast as we had at the end of Turbo, minus Blake Foster and adding in Christopher Kamen Lee, who again is an actor, who also is a martial artist. He's a kickboxer. At the end of the day, I think that, like I said about Zeo, that they had gotten kind of in tune with their characters and more comfortable with the acting portion of things. That's kind of what I felt like for In Space. In Space definitely had its weak moments. I think Melody Perkins definitely had her weak moments as Astronema, but she definitely got better as time went on, and I think she played an incredible villain. Just had some weak moments at the beginning of the series. That's about it. Number 10 on my list is Dino Charge. So Dino Charge is probably the best acted Neo Saban, obviously the best acted Neo Saban. What am I talking about? Best acted Neo Saban season, unless you count Beast Morphers, because technically Saban did cast Beast Morphers because Saban's team did do the pre-production, which would involve casting. And not only that, but Judlin was still the showrunner. So it is up to you whether or not you consider that cast Saban, but if you don't consider that cast Saban, then Dino Charge is the best acted Neo Saban season. I feel like they did a pretty solid job casting that season. I seriously still think that sometime between season 1 and season 2, Judlin walked in to the writer's room and thought, we're trying too hard, you guys. Like, we gotta try hard. We gotta try harder to set the bar lower, because this bar is like up here. This is like top tier level bar. We gotta lower that bar, because somehow the acting got worse in Dino Superchargers. Why it's not higher? I feel like the acting in Dino Charge was actually pretty decent. It wasn't solid, but it was decent. And I think that they did honestly a good job. The actors in there just did a good job. There were some weak moments, but that's what you get when you're hiring new actors, because by the time Neo Saban came around, we were hiring United States actors again, which were a United States show, meaning you can't necessarily hire union actors unless there are some serious hoops that you jump through that are on fire and they're over sharks that can jump and try and eat you. I mean, it is pretty hard to hire a union actor for a non-union show. So just a bunch of green actors, but I think that they all did pretty well. Number 9 on my list is Lost Galaxy. I love Lost Galaxy so much, but the acting, the voice acting, I've said this before in a video, the voice acting in Power Rangers has almost always been like top tier level voice acting. The majority of it has always been really, really good. It's the on-screen acting that is not always so good, but that's my issue with Lost Galaxy. I mean, when you take somebody who's literally auditioning for Power Rangers to pay for law school, we all know who I'm talking about if you're familiar with the casting of that season. You know, you're gonna run into issues. But for the most part, the acting was pretty decent. It's very same level, essentially, as Dino Charge, in my opinion. Almost solid. Like, I want to say solid, but not quite there. Number 8 is Beast Morphers. And so Beast Morphers is high up because I like the majority of the actors in that season. I feel like a lot of the minor characters, like Ben and Betty, or their father, or Ravi's mother, could have been cast differently. I still swear there should have been a storyline where Ben and Betty's dad was a robot, because that's how he acted. And then same thing with the woman who played Ravi's mother. Like, she was just very robotic, but her robotic nature was mostly based on the fact that she was trying to be this prim and proper character. And there's a way to do that without seeming robotic. She just couldn't get there. But the actual Rangers themselves were all actually pretty solid. I had some issues with the actor who played Ravi, but other than that, everybody else super solid. And honestly, Jazz's issue, honestly, it's mostly just that he's green. He needs to just learn how to act better, essentially. Just a few extra classes on yelling will help. The rest of this is all super solid seasons in acting. So number 7 on my list is Dino Thunder. I mean, even Jason David Frank did a better job than he did when he was first Tommy. Like, I don't love Jason David Frank, don't get me wrong. Like, I am so sick of that character. I'm so sick of Tommy. And it's hard to praise anything Tommy related because I'm so sick of the character that I could just hurl. However, props needs to be provided where props need to be provided, which of course means Dino Thunder is a solidly acted season. The cartoony actors did a great job being cartoony, because cartoony does not mean bad. Cartoony can be really good. And in that particular season, everybody did such a great job at the role they were supposed to play. I mean, you look at the cartoony characters, they were well done. You look at the people who were not supposed to be cartoony characters, they were well done. Everybody did so well. The chemistry was great. I genuinely enjoy the acting of Dino Thunder. Number 6 on my list is Mystic Force. So Mystic Force, again, the Disney seasons just had solid actors because the majority of the actors that they hired were either Australian or New Zealand, and then there were some casts that would have Canadian actors. So this one in particular, Mystic Force, was all Australian or New Zealand, but I think this was just a very well acted season. Again, the characters that were meant to be cartoony were solidly there. Lily, Phineas, solidly there. Claire, solidly there. You know, then you had Udana was kind of in between. She was not meant to be super cartoony, but she was still supposed to be a little more eccentric. She was solid. Like, just everybody was solid. Chip, also meant to be a little bit more cartoony, super solid. That entire cast had great chemistry, had just great acting skills, and most of them were brand new, which is wild. So basically, just better acting on that side of the world. But these actors all also go places. The ones that were in Power Rangers during the Disney seasons, their careers mostly just skyrocketed after Power Rangers. So there you go. Number 5 on my list is Ninja Storm. Ninja Storm, again, was just a solid season. In the acting realm. Again, every single actor who was meant to be cartoony was great. We had some really solid actors, just really good actors who were able to pull off some pretty dark material, and I loved it. It was great. And rest in peace, Pua Magasiva. Number 4 on my list is Time Force, and I have trouble putting it here because I feel like there was definitely some very weak moments. So it wasn't as solid as maybe some others, but I feel like the acting was just so good. And this was a season where actors' careers actually continued to go places. I mean, you look at Erin Cahill, she's fantastic. She's gone and done other places. Michael Copan went on to do One Tree Hill. And I mean, he's done other things too, but like, that was one of the ways that my roommate in college tried to get me to watch One Tree Hill. She's like, one of the actors in it is a Power Ranger, or was a Power Ranger. And I was like, who? And I looked it up and I was like, oh, Time Force. I actually didn't watch much of that season, so anyway, I just think that's a little fun anecdote. But a lot of the actors actually went on to do other things, actually continued to act, because guess what? They were actually actors. I just think that that season was well done. There were weak moments, maybe not as solid as some, but the places where they did well, they did really, really well. And it was just really good. Number 3 on my list is SPD. Now, this is another one that was primarily Canadian, actually. This season was, I mean, I think the SPD's strongest points were its acting and its characterization, just in general. I mean, it's one of the best, clearly, in my opinion. One of the best acted seasons that one could ever experience in Power Rangers. If you want to watch a well-acted Power Ranger seasons, it's one of these top ones here. But this was where it starts. This is the first season of Power Rangers that was like, that is solid. That is acting, and this is what Power Rangers is capable of when it comes to acting. Number 2 on my list is Jungle Fury. I feel like Jungle Fury was so well acted. Again, it's one of those seasons where I watched and I was like, this is what Power Rangers is capable of when it comes to acting. Like, this is where the bar should be, and we should try to beat it every time. Just fantastic. I think everybody did so well. The guy who played RJ, fantastic at doing the things that he did actually do. He was so great, honestly, at doing this like almost Captain Jack Sparrow kind of character where he was eccentric and out there and used his body to really like accentuate just how eccentric his character was. And my favorite acted season, if you've been paying attention, is RPM. RPM is so good. I think the weakest actors in RPM is the actors who played Gem and Gemma, because I just personally don't like that style. I don't like the characters that are basically sharing a brain kind of concept. I don't like that, but that's just a personal opinion. They're actually really good actors because they did cartoony very well. I just find the characters themselves annoying. And again, that is all just personal preference. That is not me being an actor being like, that's a bad choice, or being a director being like, that's a bad choice. It's not a bad choice. It's just not a choice that I would choose personally. But everybody else, absolutely fantastic. If you want to see one of the best, I mean, obviously in my opinion, the best active Power Rangers season is RPM. If you want to see the best season in general, it's just RPM. Let's be real. I love RPM. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I love RPM. So there you go. So there you have it. I ranked all the Power Ranger seasons again, but this time as acting versus whether or not I like them based on story, characterization, and acting. This is just strictly acting. If there's another way that you guys would like me to rank Power Rangers seasons, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys all next time. Bye! If you guys want to see the last time I ranked all the Power Rangers seasons, you guys can click right here. If you guys want to see all the Power Rangers videos I've ever done, you can click right here. Click here to subscribe to my main channel. Click here to subscribe to my vlogging channel. I make new videos every Thursday down here, and I live stream every Saturday when there's a new episode of Power Rangers Dino Fury. And up here, I film every once in a while, and it usually goes up on a Monday. But it's my version of a family vlog because I'm a pet mom, and I want to add value to your life. If you are wanting to become a pet parent or are already a pet parent and want to add more value to your existence, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.